So Trix's surprise loco in HO scale this year is the 18201 in Deutsche Reichsbahn green with the auxiliary tender. With a lot of the water towers being demolished, the auxiliary tender gave the loco range for tourist rail tours. Now Trix have gone to town with this. They've largely constructed the model from metal, so metal boiler, side skirts, tender frame, tender bodies. They've also fitted it with a number of digital features, and it's beautifully kitted out with all the pipe work. It's an incredibly elegant loco. It's still got the sort of brute force of German steam locos, but the design of the streamlining was incredibly well done. And it's a one-off loco. It was built for brake testing high-speed coaches. So they took the chassis of the 61002, which was one of the Henschel-Wegmann streamlined locos. It had these massive driving wheels. So they took the chassis and married it to an experimental high-pressure boiler from H45, an experimental steam loco, and a fairly standard tender was married to it. It was originally built as coal-fired and later converted to oil firing, which you see on this model. I believe Roco are doing the coal-fired version this year, just as a comparison. And of course, for preservation, the second tender was added. Trix have put lots of little features on. You've got the little red lights there as a controllable function. I'll do this all with the lights off in the workshop here, and you've got the service lighting there. It looks better when the strip lights overwhelm them a bit. Got cabin lights, firebox glow, and of course the lights on the rear of the loco. Oops, change direction, there we are, which can be shut out with function 10. So where you got it connected up with something, you can turn those lights off. The drive is through the main wheels with the motor mounted in the boiler of the loco. Beautiful smooth drive mechanism from Trix, and they've done it whilst preserving the see-through look of the chassis. There's very delicate 4-bar frames used on these chassis to keep the weight down. So we'll have a look at some of the functions. There's 28 digital functions on the loco. Got the main sound. We've gone through some of the lights and things already. So a lot of the standard operating sounds. Turbo generator, in fact there's two on the loco. It's those two up there to generate electricity for functions. And get it moving. There we go. Three-cylinder loco, so you get this sort of asymmetric beat. It's quite nice. So what I'm going to do is put on the smoke generator now. It fills, there's two holes in there, just fill it through one of the little holes with the pipette in the box. The two holes give it a nice effect when it's driving. So it looks like it's the two chimneys. quite effective. It makes the smoke into a chamber and then a fan forces it out in time with the beats. And there'll be a sensor on one of the axles to tell the loco when to chuff and when to put the beats out. So there we are. So when the Trix one arrived, I thought, I know what, I'll dig out my old Roco one. So this was done way back in 2004 when Roco sponsored some of the repair work on the real Loco, and they paid for it to be painted into this special scheme. So the red was never carried in service, it was purely for a couple of years basically. I like it so much that I've ordered O-gauge versions of this in red from KM1. I don't think that the Trix will do it in the red because it's a Roco special livery, but you never know because, as I say, KM1 are doing it. But in O-gauge in brass, so that's going to be a bit special. The Roco loco is conventional practice for their time, so motor in here, driving 2 rear axles, then cardan shaft driving the main axles. It's all plastic body, fairly decent weight, and it was fabulously detailed for the time, and it was just before Roco fundamentally went bust, so this was the last hurrah of the old Roco company before it was bought by Model Eisenbahn Munich. Now they solved the pony truck issue by putting doors on here, so as the pony truck swings around tight corners it pushes open these doors. Trix could have done that. I suspect they probably thought, you know what, we don't want to copy it. It's also fragile, so you've got to be careful that these doors don't get damaged. So maybe Trix probably wise to go for their solution for the tight corners, which is to have an open slot here and cosmetic ones that you can screw in. It replaces the whole panel in the box. The Trix Loco has the motor in here, driving the main wheels only. Everyone has their own preference for drive. Both Locos have quite open frames, and the Roco is commendably done. The Trix Loco again has a full representation of the 4-bar frames as well. You can see daylight through the spokes. So it's a nice comparison. See how they're built. I've turned the strip lamps off so we can see some of the lighting effects a bit better. We've got the headlights, and on the front with function 9 it turns on these 2 marker lights. You've got function 8 are the workshop lights, and there's 4 of them, 2 on each side. And yeah, so cabin light, they seem to have painted the cabin roof, that's quite nice, and all the fittings as well in there. There is function 10 which turns out the rear lights. Function 6 controls the lights on the tender. And 11, wherever we are, there we go, is the firebox glow. I don't normally talk about the packaging, but there's an awful lot going on with this. Firstly, with Trix Locos there is a little tray underneath the Loco that comes out the side here, and that contains all the paperwork. So it's kind of well hidden if you're not used to their packaging. In the top of the tray here is the pipette for filling the smoke. I tend to use syringes, but it's there to use it. These are the cosmetic side pieces I was talking about, and you can see under there there's a single screw that mounts it. They do supply a couple of spare screws, which is quite a nice touch, and those are the straight plates for putting in a cabinet. Also in the top of the box are loads of brake hoses and some cosmetic couplers. The reason I've done this is because there's some fittings in the box which are quite unusual. This one here with two posts goes into the bottom of the tender when you drop it in. You can see the two holes between the speaker grill, between the bogies. This one I find it's probably better to fit to the loco before you put it in the box. And you'll see there's a little hole here by the front axle, and that little stud goes into it. And get that the right way round. So there, it just clicks into place, loosely in place. It's just a push fit, and that secures the loco within the box. So when you tip it over, that goes into that little channel there. Fairly standard, what is it, ice cube box they call them. It just latches at the end. There are side pieces as well, and they are marked so that the front is marked, and that just keeps it all secure in transit. And they've got this nice barrier as well with their boxes to protect the models. Finally, there is clear plastic film with a soft padding that goes over the top of it that just sits on top of the models like that.